So welcome guys. Welcome to the mini course. I'm going to try to pack as much potent stuff into 4 sessions as I can. So for the ones of you that doesn't know, I have been doing these coach programs for the last year now, training people to become coaches. And yeah, this is like an attempt at showing this to more people, what is really in there, because many people seem to not really know how potent it is. Because everyone who dares to enter has a really, really good experience and gets so much from it. So I wanted to share this with more people. So happy that you're here. Yeah, so for the ones that doesn't know, this course will have 4 sessions. So this is the first one and most fundamental one. And I call it Unlocking Your Highest Service Potential. That's what this has the potent, that's the potential of this session if you implement what you hear here today, which is obviously, in a way, this is what we use the whole coaching course to implement. So it has many aspects to it and it goes really deep, maybe even deeper than it might seem at first. And then there is other things that adds on to that. There is many other building blocks that comes on top of that, and we picked 4 out of them. This is the first one, which, yeah, I would say it's most fundamental compared to the others. This is like, yeah, maybe double or triple as important as the other lessons, so to say. Because it skips over so much of the human conditioning, and suddenly you are able to be of service so much more from you, so much more of your potential gets unblocked. That's why I call it unlock service potential, because you have built up this potential, and then there is some beliefs and some stuck patterns of how we interact as human being to human being, as person to person, which just doesn't work if you want to help someone transform. If you want to help someone move forward, many of those things, that's not what our language and our day-to-day communication is built for. But that is what coaching is built for. So it takes some reinventing. It takes some, yeah, quite fundamental digging up of how you have been doing things and how you think you should do things. And I'm sure that you will see what I mean when we get started with the content. Session will be about 1.5 hours, by the way. And the next one will be on Sunday, then on the Tuesday after that, then on the Thursday after that. I will send you guys the links in the email though, but just so you all have a heads up and know it now. Yeah, and then about the time thing, I figured out that here in Europe, we go from winter time to summertime between today and next Sunday. That means that we make our clock different, basically. And I think you guys do the same in the US for the ones of you that live there. But you in the US already did it 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, something like that. So that's why it will be different. The time for you US people will be 1 hour. Yeah, you'll have to check this out yourself. It's a little bit hard for me to twist my brain around. But it will be 1 hour different from what it is now. Let me see. So because we will be later. Yeah, it will be 1 hour earlier for those of you over in the US next time. And the times after that. So that's why I wrote CEST instead of CET, which is European summertime. think that's the logistics, pretty much. Yes, just pop in if there is something I'm forgetting in this area, Vina. And I'm hosting this together with Vina.
Hello, I'm both assistant / partner / sister in these courses that you are doing. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and say that this is not a coaching education. These four sessions we're gonna have, you're not gonna be complete coaches for this, but they are like tastes, very very juicy taste of our course, and you will be able to implement this in your practice if you wish. And also wanted to say that what Bo was saying as well, that this is not for me, this is not like techniques that you learn. You will also learn techniques in the course, but this is like fundamental change of perspective and where to come from as a coach, or as a whatever you are, a therapist or a group leader or whatever. If you work with people, then this is useful no matter what the work is. Also personally, in your relationships with your family. Yeah.
Nice, thanks. Yeah, so this is tailored towards coaching. That's how it was structured. But I could just have made the same thing, and I would just use my words a little bit differently. But it would be pretty much the same, even though you would guide someone to become like a leader or host a group or just like talk to your family in a good way. So this is also benefits that people that do the course get. They're like, oh wow, okay, this is not just coaching. I use it like all over my life. Yeah, so just have that in the back of your mind that you can use this in any area, and to amp up the service that you currently have. I know many of you have already some kind of service. So I'm excited for you to upgrade it. If we implement this,
let's just show them, and then we can talk about it after, because then we can explain more. I'm so excited to share this with you people.
Okay, so we'll start out with one video that is from the course. I call them content videos. And then we will speak more afterwards. So the whole fundament of this whole coaching approach is all about you being available. It's all about you drawing back, keeping your hands off of the person's process that you're working with, while still staying engaged. It's about not giving advice and instead being available for them. So whenever you feel like asserting yourself into the conversation, whenever you feel like bringing your own experience or your own thoughts, your own process, anything of your own, into the equation, into the process, we want to strip that away. So from now on, you are not allowed to give advice anymore when you try to coach someone, when you're there to truly help someone. Yeah, I know it can be kind of groundbreaking. But we have this whole conditioning in humanity that we have to like interact from a personality state. But it all comes from your sort of lower personality self interacting with their personality lower self. You want to be elevated to be the higher self, and then they can also come up and match you from their higher place. So every time you come down and start to talk about your own process, start to make it about yourself in any way, that includes when you think that you know what is the answer to their solution, very much so, answer to their problem, I mean. That includes anytime you feel like saying I. There's a few exceptions to this, but in general, using the word I, saying I think, or I feel, or I. Just be aware of when you use that in the conversation, because in most cases, it is actually not helping the other person. And it is in a subtle way which you might not notice, and I didn't notice it either until I learned this approach. Then I learned the discernment. But now when you know this, you can start to learn the discernment of what effect it actually has on the conversation to assert yourself in there. So the homework that I'll give you after this session, you will be an undercover coach. So listen carefully, because you will try to apply this in many of your daily interactions. By just whoever you talk to, whoever are there wanting your advice, wanting your input, just coming up and talking to you about their problem, just start to notice when it is actually off that you bring yourself into the equation. So notice always the effect that it has on the other person. And even though you might not notice this, it very often comes from you wanting to have validation of yourself, of your own process, where you are at, and you just baseline thinking you know better than the other person. So like I said, even though you don't feel consciously like you think you know better than them, we want to peel away all possible places where you might be thinking you know better than the other person. And that is anywhere where you feel you have the solution, you feel you are one step ahead. You can be elevated, yes, you can be detached from the process and then look at it from that perspective. But from the higher perspective, there isn't conclusions. There isn't like, this is it. There is like infinite explorations of infinite different beings all over the place. And you never know where they want to go. You never know where they come from. You will never know where they go to. That's just like the nature of the veil here on earth. So keeping that in mind is, and staying respectful to that, that is actually what this does, to stay in the rooted understanding that you don't know and that you can't know. They can be the only one. They will always be the one that knows themselves the best. So this also brings like it's the total empowerment. It's the complete empowerment of the person that you work with. Instead of you taking any of their free will, instead of you moving anywhere for them, moving any bricks for them, connecting any dots for them, you just provide the space in an elevated sense of consciousness where they have more access to more of themselves than they usually have. And then they connect the dots. They walk the steps. You are just there with them, taking the very next step. It is not about getting them somewhere. So it's also rooted in that there is nothing wrong with them. There is nothing wrong with where they're at. And if there is, they're the only one to judge that. You are not the one to judge that they have to be somewhere else than where they already are. So what do you use your energy on instead of coming in and asserting yourself and giving advice and trying to guide them from that place, is that you ask very clever questions and you assert yourself in very clever ways to where you see that it affects their energy in the best possible way. And that is what all the coaching tools that you will learn in this program is about. It's all about just like finding all these smart ways that you can assert yourself where it doesn't take away their free will, but it actually enhances the acceleration, the speed with which they expand, with which they become more of themselves. Another thing you replace, instead of having your agenda with where you think they want to go, is that you will instead stay true to their agenda. Where does this person want to go? Where do they want to be by the end of this session? And how will they feel when they are in that state? And how do they know that they are there? So you always follow their agenda as the highest instead of putting your own idea of where they want to go. You just move towards whatever they want to move. And yes, you bring your elevated state of consciousness, you bring your lifted, your higher perspective with you. But that is not think that that is better, that is just letting them have access to that more informed, more conscious state of the situation. So if they conclude that actually they didn't want that relationship, actually they just wanted to be fulfilled, then they concluded that that was actually what they wanted through the exploration of your coaching session. Then the agenda has shifted slightly towards, oh, okay, it's actually more about me being fulfilled. But you don't assert the idea because you don't know, maybe them hunting for a relationship their whole life is actually the best for them. Maybe that's actually what they're here for. Maybe that's what their soul wants to explore. So whenever you are guiding someone to something, you will ask closed questions. You will ask questions where you have 2 alternatives, or 3, maybe 4 if you're generous. Or a yes and no question, even worse. What you want to do instead is to ask open-ended questions. That is when your client opens up. That is when they tell you, that is when they serve you in front of you on a silver platter what their problem is, where they want to go, what they have issues with. Over and over again, if you don't take it, if you don't see it, that's what they're going to come back to, because that's what their mind is circling around, that's what they have an issue with. So they want to fix this, they want to move forward with this. And when you then ask an open question, you will actually get access to where they're at and what they are dealing with, instead of what you think that they want to move towards. It becomes this whole thing is actually more stressful. So this approach will actually match you very well. It will fit very well in with your aligned state of staying here, rooted in your own alignment, rooted in your own true self. So you can actually relax more. You actually don't have a responsibility for them moving forward. They have the responsibility, they have the drive. You are just there, you're called upon for someone to hold the space for them to be able to accelerate their own process, using you as the permission slip, using you as the crutch. In that process, it's much more helpful to ask questions like, what do you want to get out of this? Or where do you want to go from here? Or why do you really want that? What is bothering you about that? Or what's really the issue here? Or perhaps who is it that is talking right now? So questions like what, who, why, when, all these questions that opens up and they can give any answer to. They will take it down their road. They will show you the way into their world. Let them take you down the rabbit hole of their issue, instead of you limiting it down to any small little idea that you could conjure up with your human mind down here that you could understand from the equal context you have. That is just not efficient. It doesn't move quickly. It doesn't make sense. So instead of being self-focused, instead of bringing it back to your own process and what you're dealing with, that's not the interest of this session. I could perhaps say this more polite, but it is really just the case that this session is not about you. This session is about them. So instead of going into your own process, staying self-focused, self-obsessed, you want to dig into them. Dig deeper and deeper into their issue, what is actually the problem, get more and more to the core, track it down and follow them on the road one step at a time, bringing more and more awareness to more and more of the issue, seeing more and more what they want, more and more what they don't want. And you can just trust that they will come to a solution by you staying focused and rooted in yourself. You don't have the responsibility for this session getting there. And ironically, the best way of getting there is for you to not take that responsibility from them, but let them have that responsibility themselves. And you just being there as more open, more spacious. A very good place to come from with these questions is curiosity. Just baseline curiosity. Wow, okay, what is really bothering you about this? If you came from another planet, if you didn't have any of the conditioning similar to them, you didn't accept any of the limitations that they accepted, what kind of questions, what kind of issues would you question? All these complex little things that we all have concluded as the same solution. You want to loosen that up, shake that more open, so that they can put the pieces together in a new way, after them being shaken up, opened up, expanded. So instead of thinking you know better than the other person, you're actually open. You're actually present. So that's what I'm putting in the word being available. And hands off. Anytime you think that you have to get in there and fix it, Anytime you have to make a conclusion out of it, anytime you have to, you get like some kind of contraction, some kind of like trying for something at all, then from there, for sure, you will still explore, you will still be curious, you will still go deeper in the issue. But they have the drive, they have the engine, they are the one that's driving themselves forward. Let them have that role in their own life. Don't take it from them. It will disempower them, and it will make it about you. And oh yeah, I managed to transform this person. Who cares if you managed to transform someone? This is not about you. This is not about you feeling good about yourself. So use the permission slip of this short time that they have come here, paid you for, in money or in time or in any other form of value that they have offered back to you. Use that permission slip for you being extra dropping yourself, extra aligned, extra present, extra available, extraordinarily there with them in that moment. Flex your alignment muscle. Like stretch into more of yourself for that moment because you see that that's the best you can do for them. You want to help someone, right? So then see more and more what actually helps them and stretch, embrace, be there more fully, more wholly than you normally are. More present, more true, more straight. Because you know that's all you can do from your role. And then they have to unfold, they have to figure it out. They have to get there. But you can at least provide that for them during this time. So any personal processes you have going on, you can let them go on in the background. They can still be going on. You can still have doubts, for sure. You can still feel misaligned. You can still feel like your life sucks if you want. But just let that go on in the background at this moment. At the foreground, be there for them. Just over and over, choose that, over this, choose that. Choose this connection right here. Choose this here and now with them. And they will benefit so greatly from your help. And they will be so grateful. Even though you never, ever gave them the next step, gave them the advice. Even though you never actually helped them. You helped them so greatly by not trying to help them. So the more you manage to keep yourself out of the picture, the more empowered they will be, the more they will feel like they come to their own conclusions. The more they will actually come to their own conclusions. Finding their next step. Nice. The bomb has been dropped.
So this is something that we practice for like 3 months. It's the subtle layers of where you put yourself into the process, where you put the conditioned I, where you're coming from, and where you are not coming from the conditioned I, where you're coming from more of a neutral, more of a spacious place. And all of our techniques are building upon this fundamental shift in consciousness to always be present from there. And yeah, using your intuition, using the questions, the techniques that we learn. And maybe the techniques that you have learned in your practice that you are working with. But this shift is, and it's so subtle, but it's so fundamental when the shift happens, when you feel the difference that you are. Like there is a sign when you are talking to your client and they are crying and in pain and suffering so bad, or you just, and you feel that that's perfect that they are there. It's like they can be there forever. And it's not that you don't want to help, but you just have that feeling of, they don't need to move an inch. This is perfect for them. And that's when you know, like, okay, then you have the space. But if you're all there, you know, with your hands in and, I want to help you to change. It's so horrible that you're feeling this pain. And I know this pain is so bad. I just want you to get out of it. Then you are facing exhaustion for yourself. You're facing a lot of triggers coming up because you're attached to outcome of your client. And yeah, many more. And also unsustainable help. The help that you're giving from that space is not sustainable usually for the client. The sustainable help comes from within the client themselves. And you don't sustain yourself either because you get exhausted by giving and giving and giving and giving. But from this space, it's endless.
Nice. Yes. And there is the cool thing that when you're on the other side of this, then it's like, then you don't have the limitation anymore that you can only help people that have been in a similar situation as you. You're not anymore sort of helping as a person. You're suddenly now helping as consciousness kind of thing. You're helping as God. So it's almost not helping. It's like very open-ended helping. It's kind of like just like being there. That's why I call it available. And it takes, for some people, they grok this right away. And for many people, it takes a longer time. Some people use the whole 3 months before they really grasp this, because there is certain layers of holding this. Like Vina now put out an extreme example where you're like, but that's the extreme energy if you would express only that, where typically it's hidden away and it's cloaked in other things. Like, for instance, to come from your intuition. That can be something that we want people to do, but it is like a cleansing period typically where people they have to sort of drop their old approach and implement this. Then they will come back to their old approach naturally on the other side as a natural, open-ended, open-palmed approach. So that the approach will open up. The potential in there will unlock, so that, because now you're not basing on you pushing and you teaching and you helping. It is suddenly them moving and them making their own choices and going their own direction. So that opens up, that makes any approach, any way of helping other people that you have learned and built up and cultivated, it opens it up. So it makes it much, much more beneficial for the other person. But like I said, the people who take a longer time are usually because they hold on to some kind of approach, and that is actually doing it in an approach which is doing it in a infusing way, in a way of insisting on something, infusing yourself in there. Thinking you know better is a very good summary. That it is a way rooted in thinking that you know better.
But you guys don't trust us. Please try it out. Just commit yourself to this week I will only talk like this, and try it out. Be aware of not using the I. Be aware of asking open-ended questions. Be aware of not having the control of where the conversation will go. Just try it with your friends. Try it in your normal life, and then see. We just want you to, or I at least, will be so excited to let you have this moment of like, oh, just see what it does to you as a person, how relaxed you become when you realize that you are not needed in the conversation. Like that is not needed, and how amazingly that you just see the person you're talking to realizing that they know their own answer, and them finding their answer or finding their truth, or just of that moment. The truth in that moment doesn't have to be a life-altering truth that they find in a normal conversation, but just their momentary truth, and just witness that moment. And this is a sincere invitation for you to try this out and just see for yourself, because it cannot be explained really. We have in our courses, we have these moments where the people in the course experience this, and it's like explosions. We cannot explain it to you. We just have to give you an awareness of it, and you have to try it yourself, and then you will like, maybe many of you already have this experience already, and this is just a more of a form how to, or what to not do, or what to do, like more of an overview. I guess probably many of you already have. How is this landing for all of you guys? I'm curious. Are you muted? Someone tried to.
I didn't see someone trying to speak. Huh? If someone wants to speak, you can unmute yourself.
And
can you guys hear me?
Anyone want to? Oh yeah.
Good.
Okay. So yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about this because I've actually got this in school like really recently, which is like sort of called problem solving, psychology. And it's really interesting because it covers like the base of what you guys are saying. So it's really funny to now hear you guys talk about it, because it's actually like, it works pretty well. You're just there as like an empty vessel, just like they actually speak to themselves, you're not even there. It's really funny to just like sort of observe. And I feel like if you do it like really correctly, of course, this was my first time. Now I've had like 4 coach conversations, but yeah, I just wanted to share that it's it works really well for me as well.
Cool, man. That's great. Nice that they have a term for it in psychology. Yeah, the things that I found traces of this, I think it is like in most coaching courses, traces of it, or like where this is a part of it, but typically they don't put the full focus on this. So that's sort of what we have done there, that like made it into like, okay, it's this and not this. And it fits very well in with all these spiritual principles. And I'm sure that all of you have had experiences in direction of, when you relax more, everything just goes way better. So it's just another aspect of that. But this one is just so hugely beneficial for the whole service side of things.
Yeah.
Nice, thank you. Anyone else? Oh, Volker raised his hand. Yes, you can speak.
Hi, is it allowed to try to bring the person being coached into a meditative state? For example, if you see that he's falling into a deep emotional turmoil because he's putting something into a bad perspective for himself, and perhaps you can use a meditation technique like trying to see if he can see the space between 2 thoughts or try to see if he can actually see what is here now that was also when he was born or when he was a little person. Try to see if he can see the presence in himself to come closer to his higher self. Is it allowed to do that, or is it just completely let him go in a free fall with his emotion, perhaps even committing suicide in front of you?
Cool, thank you. The latter, the last, is the alternative you should pick when you implement this. So later you can perhaps step in and do this, but that's on the other side of fully implementing this availability approach. So right now, trying this out, no, because this you can hear, and you can all probably hear how him speaking about this is because he feels he has authority and he has heard other people speak about. It's just logical, like we all are in the spiritual community, then it's like, oh yeah, like presence and higher self and relaxing. But you see how that is slightly infusing his own agenda to try to avoid a certain direction. So ultimately, there's nothing wrong with it in the end, that you can guide the conversation and be like, oh, okay, relaxation now. But it would more be at this stage infused through just your state of being, just you like relaxing, first and foremost yourself. And yeah, I don't actually want to say much about the next stage already, because this is like the first stage of it. And then it is really to pull your hands off of this as well, even though it might be hard. Yes, Petra.
Pram, I saw you raising your hands earlier. Oh.
At this point, I mainly recognize how much I feel responsible for that the person coming to see me goes out the door much clearer, lighter, and happier than how they came in. So I feel it as I mean, it's often unconscious, but I recognize it strongly. I feel that as my responsibility. And so
nice. So
that's a very clear recognition of, in that sense, not being relaxed. And while during the session, I take a lot of time and I feel I'm leaning back and but then I follow my intuition and not so much open questions where they are. So yes, there's a lot to discover. There are many layers. I can feel there are many layers to that.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to investigate.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm really happy. Petra is coming for the longer course also, so she's going to implement this. That's going to be great. Yeah, sorry that I broke you off in the middle. It was just because I thought you were going to make it more clear about that. Because it is really a matter of trying this out and then seeing how this works better. And then it's like, yes, it is more risky because maybe they will leave and nothing will have happened because you didn't pick up that responsibility. Like, oh, that's the unsafety sort of in there. But if you can let that go and you try it out, then you just get more and more. The only thing that happens is that you get more and more convinced that that actually makes them leave even more light. Most of the times. Sometimes there will be a session where it conjures up tension, and the tension is still held by the end of the session. But then can you still not insist? Can you still not think that you know better than the flow of what was going on? Because it's like, it's such a unique dynamic when you relax into that and the client relaxes into you. It is this like, and then from there it's just, yeah, we don't have so much control anymore from there, and cool stuff happens. So it's like witnessing magic in front of your eyes after that. But maybe I shouldn't speak too much about it. It's better, like Vina says, that you guys can try it for yourself.
Yeah, and you already know this dynamic of, if you really want something for someone, they can react with like, no, I don't want that. If you try to push something onto them, even in the excuse that, under the excuse that I feel their higher self wants it. This is this is a funny one. And you know how that they feel that push and like push back, this reaction is common. That also with the wish of them, oh, I want them to leave happy and light. That also can be like a burden to them, like pushing them down, like, oh, someone wants something from me. It's not for myself. So it's really, really subtle layers of that, and that can make them kind of invisibly or subtly push back to you as well, and not being completely open. Just seeing the availability of your client, the openness of your client when you are completely open also is like so touching. Like the trust that happens there, how much they trust you when you are not there, because it's hard to trust the I, like yourself. My mind knows this thing, but when this is out of the way and you trust something bigger, then they can trust you again. So is this line that needs to be pure, and it's like, oh, you can see the effect. So beautiful to see.
Yes, exactly. You trust, you lean into God, and then you become trustworthy to them, so they can lean into you. So you actually just become a conduit of that. And it's totally exactly what Vina says there, that there is all these dynamics where it's the counter, where it's like in a relationship, when one person is something, then it becomes a push, and then the push keeps going, and it never resolves itself, because it's one fighting against each other. No, one thing contradicting the other, and the fight gets sustained in that way. So this drops all those fights, and then there is nothing else. Then there is nothing else except for progression, except for them moving towards what they want. That's what's naturally there. So like I said in the video, they will keep sort of putting the issue on the table, and then just by putting that into the air of that fertile soil, of that trusting space, it will like work its magic on itself, type of thing. It's not even itself, because you also, it's very active, your state, it's actively available, like you're leaning forward into the conversation. So you're not like detaching and not being there. But typically what people need more of is to relax out of it, because we have way more attachments, and so then you're way too much in there.
And also there is like a base, like if you're doing coaching, that like, if you're not doing your own practice that you're doing, but our coaching is, we have this skeleton of starting questions and ways to solve things, and the questions to ask, like, so you have something to lean into as well, not just like, okay, let's do a session, hello, and you're just sitting there like empty. So we have these ways of going forth and finding out what the client's agenda is, where you want to move, and yeah, all of these things. Are we teaching this for starting questions in our webinar?
It's very nice that you mentioned. No, I didn't have a plan to do it. We might do it, let's see. But it wasn't in the plan, because we have not so much space to teach stuff. But this is a very good point, that there is way more stuff to lean into. All the other stuff in the course is sort of also things to build on this, and that you have something to fall back on. So other different ways of applying yourself than giving advice and directions on what people should do, because there is lots of other things you can do with your energy. But for now, so in a way, the final state is what Vina said there, that you just come to a session, is just, that's the final state. But up till there, you need lots of other things to build on and get adapted to, sort of. But this is where I wanted to start, without any to just see how far you can stretch it like this.
Yeah, so we just, in the start, just when you meet a friend, or you're going to have tea with your family or something, just remember these open-ended questions, like, oh, and did you explained about the open-ended questions, right?
Yes, slightly.
We could send out a list also of open-ended questions if you guys understand what that means, these open-ended questions. Yeah, so like, how is that for you? How does that feel for you? Oh, what do you want to do about that? Or how is, just asking them questions, and also if, yeah.
Nice. I will send that out after this. That's good to have something to lean on. So I have a list of open-ended questions that you can read through just to get into, oh, this is the flow of it. This is how they work. So that you get into the mindset of that. Because you can also use them to be like, this is a very general, like 90% you will cut off, but you can have some percent of still using them to get somewhere, to still be very aware of your state. That's the most important. But the open-ended questions are basically like not yes and no, not giving them options or anything like that. But it's like open-ended, empowering, exploring, thought-provoking, deepening, probing questions. Opening, future-oriented, like ambitious thoughts in that area. So it's like open-ended and sort of positive, you could say. Open-ended, solution-focused, solution-oriented.
So I just want to ask, for those of you who are coming also to the next gathering, raise your hands for the ones of you who feel open and excited to try this out for this week. Yay! Nice. Cool.
That's awesome.
I'm excited. Oh, I'm very excited to hear how it went this week. Do you have any insecurities about how to do it, or which situations, or anything?
Let's show the homework video before we go into that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, do that.
It's just a very short one. Then you guys can see if you have any questions. So homework during this next week is to do this coaching undercover. Everywhere you sneak around in your life, see wherever you can slip in a more open-ended question. See wherever you can truly be there for them, and just sneak your way around all those advices and all those personal validation. All those, oh yeah, my person feels similar to yours. And be this little scientist underneath the surface, tinkering with, oh, if I do this, what happens to them then? And keep it secret, keep it to yourself, because you want them to be able to transform. You don't want it to be about you. So every moment you interact with someone, really value it. Be really present to it, and see where it actually doesn't make sense anymore to assert yourself. To go in there. Stay hands off. And you don't have to tell them that you're doing anything. So stay undercover for now and try this out. And you will have lots of time and lots of different exercises and lots of different support systems for you to root into this new approach. But this is truly the fundament of everything that you will learn throughout this course. So thank you. And go out there and experiment and tinker with this new approach and see how this perhaps makes more sense than what you have done previously. And when you do the previous things, see what effect it has on the other side. Nice. So was there any questions about how to implement this, or doubts?
Don't be shy.
And if not, I'd also like to hear if some of you have a really good feeling for what this can bring. Like why did you all put up your hand? What do you feel this could do? What do you think might change if you do this?
Just unmute yourself and start speaking.
I find myself pretty assertive. Like I have this way of, oh, I think that's unaligned in you, and I have a goal, and let's get there. So I'm open to try something that I'm not used to. Although I definitely like, I do the other thing you say too, but I don't know, I have this drive, like I always see potential, like, oh yeah, you could be more aligned here, and I could be more aligned here, you could be more balanced here, and I'm always like seeing that, like the potential, and that's my main drive and focus. But it hasn't been. I just want to go into the other side more. It's nice, like, to be more passive and see like what's in front of me. You know?
Nice. Cool. I can't tell by this little explanation where you're coming from, because actually what I am encouraging my coaches to do is to like stay aligned with one sort of very general thing of like the benefit of all, or like the best possible outcome, or like something along those lines, something like wide and sort of like positive and affirmative. So to stay that as you're like, because some people needed some kind of like thing to hold on to, like, okay, but what should I focus on then? And then that was the thing that I came to and taught them. So that might be what you're doing. But I would need more context to see if, and I don't think we would have time to get into it now. But just like you said, now try this out and you will see what drops away. And then you are like, okay, maybe that wasn't totally me. Because ultimately you'll find this fitting really well in with you, even though it at first might get some resistance and like, oh, that's totally natural, guys. If this gets some resistance and some like, oh, but this thing I really believe is good. Thanks.
Hi. I can really see the potential for this outside of coaching as well. And when I was watching the video, I had this like impulse, like, oh, this is the answer for my interaction with my children. Yes. Because it just felt so like spot on that they're going to totally benefit from this, and I'm going to feel so much better. So yeah, so that's definitely where I'm going to be experimenting this week. And the other thing was, it's perfectly in alignment for me right now with like, I really have this like resistance of doing anything.
Yes.
I don't want to do anything, and like I feel really relaxed and surrendered, but then you do get into these situations where you feel like, oh my God, someone's asking me for help, I better do something. And it's become a real strain on my system to like help, like go into like a helping mode. Or so yeah, it sounds like a perfect tool. So I'm really excited to experiment it and see what shifts. So thanks.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice, Jessica. Sounds like you're in the perfect situation to implement this more. Yeah, it's really like aligned with like higher states, like more rooted in awareness, more saturated with beingness, to not have to, because then it will feel more natural to do this, and less natural the more sort of enlightened you become, or the more light you become, the more natural this approach will be, and the less natural actually it will become to like go in there and help. I will say though that just know that the family thing is challenging. So if you think that it's gonna sort of go smoothly, drop that. It's great to use it like totally encouraged. And actually it's the biggest side effect of the coaching course that I've heard, that I didn't expect, that people get so nice interactions with their family members, that they open up the relationships with them that hasn't been opened before.
No, but it is recommended to talk to your kids like that, but not as, what we are saying is as a coach. That's what has been
Yep.
Like but as a person,
Yeah.
kind of interacting like that, which I thought was what you meant.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I don't want to coach my kids. It's their
No, that's what we're not recommending, to coach your kids and your boyfriend and stuff
No.
like that. But to meet them,
Yeah.
we have so many of our coaches has experienced, because like you have these old patterns between you and subconsciously, and when they are like let go of, and such deep meetings and such healing can happen in that meeting. So we had a lot of very nice experience with that.
It's very nice that you want to do it.
Mm.
It's more that the progressive coaching relationship, it won't be like optimal usually with the family, because it's the harder place to start. Nice. Well, this is fun. One thing to note though is that you guys have come to this course for free. So that creates a different energy dynamic. So now it's way more your guys' responsibility to see the value in this and to implement it. And it's in a way harder when it's not inside of that container of like a paid course. Because then also it's harder for you to take my word for something, or harder for you to skip your own mind and try something different out. But you can do it. Totally, you can do it. It's just that it requires a little bit more like, what's good to say, like wisdom or discipline. Or,
more commitment.
Yeah, commitment. But I'm really happy that you're all, so many of you are up for it now. Yes. You have to click the unmute button first, Yolanda.
All right. I can already feel some challenges coming up for this week ahead. And I think what comes up for me is that I don't always want to be available. And this afternoon, I had a wonderful conversation with a friend of mine, and I was really up and in a good space. And that really heightened the whole experience of the conversation, and it was beautiful. And I also know that sometimes I just don't want to be so visible and available and being seen and stuff. It's very much a sort of a seesaw movement for me. So that I think that will be very interesting to see how I'm going to be with that. If I now say that yes, I'm going to do this coaching and this undercover discovery thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
Nice.
Well, good luck. And I'm very excited to hear how it goes on Sunday, how it went, if you're coming on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Samantha is raising her hand. Yes, you can jump on. Oh, you have to unmute yourself. I can't do it for you. There.
Hi.
Hey.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
What if you're not a coach?
Then what?
Then what?
Nothing is different, I think. What do you think is different?
Yeah, with the family and stuff. No, but I read somewhere that you said people who don't have the physical service yet, right?
Nice, yes.
So I am interested in that part.
Cool.
Well, can I just jump in real quick? Because
Yes.
it's like if you meet a friend and someone starts talking to you and they say something about their life or something. And then you would say, oh, have you tried this? Or, oh, you suddenly have an opinion and try to give them something. And instead of doing that, like you always do, you see with curiosity, like feel your curiosity and like, and you can ask, how is that for you? How does that feel? Or why is it like that? You know, if they're like, oh man, my car broke and then it was like this and something, and you come with this curiosity, openness, like, oh, why are you mad about that? Or whatever, like, comes to you, any open question from a curiosity and openness. That could be an example.
Yes, exactly. That's what would be encouraged for everyone here, because many here aren't coaches. That it's just to use it in the interactions that you have. I would assume that you interact with people, and then it's just a switch, like Vina said there.
Would it be like a training for coaching?
Well, also just training for a different, actually more at this stage, just training for a different way of communicating, which might bring about more of what you want.
Okay, thank you.
And then when you are more available like this, probably if you commit to this, more opportunities will show up, because like higher self and all these things are guiding steps, and it's like, oh, there is a person there which is available to bring something through. There's a person there which is available to actually help by not trying to help. That's what I mean by help. And then you will like put the situations, then like, oh, then you're suddenly sitting there and maybe you have this 2-hour conversation with someone. And for sure, you don't need to. You can still leave the conversation when you want. Things like this. And you can step back into, you probably will step back into what you did before. But then just notice the difference. Oh, how did that go? How did this go? That's what I mean by experiments. Petra, yeah.
It's so funny to watch my mind say all kinds of things while you were giving the advice of not giving advice, because I could really literally see and remember all these conversations that I had with friends or in sessions, and all these people thanking me for giving them good advices, you know, and that was so helpful and they could use it so well. And also me in conversations kind of being aligned and having downloads of things that I wanted to say. And now I'm thinking, and my mind is kind of saying, that's a download from higher self. You should say that. You can't hold that back. That's very important. So it's so, but of course there's a part of that in there that wants to be important and validated and wants to feel good about me giving the advice and me helping and me being of service, right? So it's very interesting to just watch my mind wanting to say, no. I'm sure there's a way of giving advice in an open-ended question, you know. That's just what I wanted to say. So I'm very curious how the experiment will go the next couple of days. I will try.
Perfect. That's great. seeing this pattern. This is a typical thing.
Funny.
Nice.
Yes, and just a quick comment on that as well, that people are so happy to get advice, and like when they're desperate, they're like, yeah, they just take everything and thank you. And it seems so helpful in that moment. And they put you up like, she knows the answer. And it's a great feeling. But then 4 weeks later, 5 weeks later, what happened to them? So what we see again and again is that when advice is coming like this, when they're picking it and okay, I will try it, and they try it for 2 days and then they're back again. So the real sustainability is when they come with their own, when they're really like, and then it comes, they're so sick of this thing, and the answer just comes, and poof, the change is from them, and it's real. I'm not saying that advice doesn't work, but very often we see that it's not always sustainable because it's someone else's light being given.
Yes.
And one more thing is that they are growing. How this coaching is so empowering, so completely empowering, and the growth in themselves when they realize that they have the answer is also an immense strength inside of them growing. So that's also a part. If the advice is given, it's like when you cannot walk and you're going and holding, and the point of gravity is all crooked. But when it comes from within, then the point of gravity is like growing and they can stand more and more. So that's a part of the healing happening when they realize they find the answer themselves. That's also a big part of the healing. Growing as, I got this, I know this. Oh, okay, it's my answer, my truth. And instead of always receiving it from the outside.
Yes, it is like the long-term sustainable change versus like short-term burst excitement, like what do you call it? Like instant gratification type of thing. You have to sacrifice that a little bit. But it's so worth it. It's like, oh my God. You can use yourself as an example for this, by the way. Instead of thinking about other people, it can help with yourself. Think when you have received an advice, how many times, like how many percentage of the times have someone told you an advice and it might have been like, oh, cool suggestion, or even not, like, oh, that's just them. Wherever it was at the scale, or like, wow, super helpful. Like, did it actually make you take the next step, or was it just all those different things and then at some point you took the next step? So then you could even argue that giving that advice at that point is not even instant gratification. It's actually putting them further away from the goal because they think that they have some kind of solution or resolve, which they will lose some of the fuel to find it themselves. They will lose some of the exploration power type of thing. They'll lose like the potency, the openness of finding it themselves and moving towards the next step. So that's what you're sacrificing every time you do this. You're sacrificing on the highest path, which is totally empowered. You could even affirm it in your mind when you speak to them, like just like have that be your mindset. I know that you know everything you need. I will never know better than you. That's a very good place to be rooted. I don't know better than you. You know best in your own life.
Yeah, and from that comes the curiosity. So to check in with yourself, like, oh, am I curious now? Or do I know the answer of this person? If you're curious, then it's like, oh, I'm curious. And then maybe a question comes around what direction does your curiosity go in with this person? Or check, is it like, oh, I know what you're going through. I know this pain. Or I know this is so much better if you do that. But see if you can manage to be curious. And also interesting exploration is to turn it also inwards to yourself. That's very nice to do. Like if you're in a situation yourself and then meet yourself with, ooh, how do I feel about this? Curious about how you are and what's going on with yourself. That's also very, very nice exploration. But it doesn't have anything with this coaching so much, but just as an add-on. It's also fun to do. Just be curious about everything.
Any more doubts or questions or sharings? Yes. Oh.
So I wanted to add a little bit on the like power of silence, because when you're not saying anything, not suggesting anything, it's what they taught me in school as well. They say like sometimes you can just sit there and be quiet and just like stare at them in the face for like 2 minutes, just like completely be there for them. Like have an active position. Don't be like just like laying down waiting for them to answer. But just, watching them presently in the eyes so they can like figure it out themselves, because that's what I kind of felt the struggle with as well, because when you ask a question, you want to sort of clarify it by maybe adding suggestions, so it's like blah, 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 you keep on pushing stuff, but that's like the opposite thing you want to do. So it's okay to be completely silent, and maybe if you're feeling awkward, just it shouldn't matter. So that's a tip.
Nice, exactly. Yes, that's totally aligned with this approach. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, a lot can happen in those silent moments between the questions when there is nothing coming. So if you can, be fine with that happening. And that's also, can you see how that's also yourself, to be insistent on that, not having to be there, the break between the questions. Yes, like Vina said, that is how you can guide, through you guiding where you go with the questions. So they will be open, so they will always show you what they want, but still you can like follow your curiosity. That's what can be really helpful for you to like, oh, I heard that word, I want to go deeper into that. Then you hear another one, then you hear another one, and then by the end they're finished, they're finished speaking, then you go into the one which seems the most relevant at that moment. It's like, oh yeah, and you go down that path, and you go there, and you go there. You have to be really open to draw back and go another direction, or to just keep going deeper into something. Why do you want that? Why do you want that? Why do you want that? For instance. Yeah. Well, I feel like this has landed. Thank you guys for receiving so well. Cool. Is there something more you want to add while everyone is still here, Vina? Otherwise, I'll round up the meeting, and then I'll stay on for a while for some more questions if there is any.
No, I feel it's a perfect way to end.
Good.
Just wish you all good luck, and I hope to see you all on Sunday for the next step. And yeah, like we said before, also we're starting this coach training that's 4 months, and then we are working with this and many other things to really like rock it. So if you're interested, please check it out on our website, SandringS.com. And yeah, thank you for coming today. It's lovely.
Yes. Yeah, and feel free to ask me any questions if you have any about the coach training or anything like that. And you'll receive an email by tonight with the recording of this, where you will have accessible for a little while.
1 month accessible. And also feel free, if something comes up during this week, questions or anything, doubts, please contact one of us. We are available for you. We are super happy to answer anything all the time. So don't hesitate to make contact with us.
Yes. And in the mail, I'll also send the open-ended questions, so you can read through those and ground yourself into those.
Yeah, to see what that's all about and feeling that curiosity. Great.
Nice. Thank you, guys. So nice to have you here. So nice to feel your openness and readiness and commitment.